Welcome dear student and Jai Swaminarayan. Today I will start your new chapter, chapter number 8, Gravitation. Dear student, the gravitation chapter you were study in the standard 9 also. In the standard 9 you were study what do you mean by the gravitational laws of the gravitation, acceleration due to gravity. So these all the things you will study in this chapter. And in this chapter we will discuss about the what do you mean by the gravitational universal law of the gravitation, acceleration due to gravity, gravitational acceleration, variation in the acceleration due to gravity, right? Variation in acceleration due to gravity also study in this chapter. So dear student, planetary motion, the model of the planetary motion is started from the very earlier since so many hundreds of the years ago. The study of the planetary motion are there. So brief history of the planetary motion you know, right? So first of all, the Ptolemy gives the model of the planetary motion. Ptolemy gives the geocentric theory that you know. In the standard 9 you will study about that the geocentric theory of the Ptolemy, right? So according to the geocentric theory of the Ptolemy, the earth is stationary at the center and all the planets including the sun is revolving around the earth, right? So this theory is called the geocentric theory. Geo, that means the earth. So according to the Ptolemy's geocentric theory, earth is stationary around the center of the solar system and all the planets including the sun revolving around the earth. But after a few years, right, Nicholas Copernicus, John Tycho Brahe, and given the different theory of the planetary motion. And according to the Copernicus, right, he give a heliocentric theory. And according to the Copernicus, the sun is at a center in the solar system, and all the planets, including Earth, right, all revolving around the sun. So this theory is called the heliocentric theory, right? So these are the controversies with each other. So meanwhile, Tycho Brahe, he's from his study, he give the suggestion to the planetary motion, and after that, Kepler's given a laws of the planetary motion. So here we are not interested in the previous history more detail, right? We are taking the first Kepler's law of the planetary motion. What are the Kepler's law of the planetary motion? So let us start our chapter with the planetary motion, Kepler's law of the planetary motion. So first one is that, so from the previous studies of the planetary motion, Kepler give a three law of the planetary motion, and from that we can understand how the planets are revolving in a solar system, right, in the different orbit. What are the periodic times of the planet, right, revolving in a different orbit? What are the speed of the planet? So let us start with the Kepler's law for the planetary motion. So first law, Kepler's first law of the planetary motion is a law of orbit. So according to the Kepler's first law, all the planets move in an elliptical orbit such that sun located at the one of its focus, right? Let us see this figure, right? Elliptical orbit. So all the planets moves in a elliptical orbit such that the sun is located at the one of its focus. So let us consider this type of the planet P. As so in this figure, consider a planet P is revolving in a elliptical orbit. So ellipse has a two focus. So first focus at here and second focus C2 at here. So let us consider that all the planets moves in this elliptical orbit such that the sun is located at one of its focus. So sun is located at this focus C1. So ellipse has a second focus C2. So planet is revolving in an elliptical orbit such that the sun is located one of its focus, either this one or this one. So elliptical orbit has a two different axes. Minor axis, the minimum distance between the two ends, that is called the minor axis, and the major axis, right? The longest axis of the ellipse is called the major axis, and the shortest axis of the ellipse is called the minor axis. So ellipse has a two axes, right? Minor axis as well as the major axis, that we will use in the second law, right? But the first law of the planet is that the sun is located at one of its focus. All the planets, including the earth, moves revolve around the sun in an elliptical orbit such that the sun is located at one of its focus, right? So understand the Kepler's first law, and that's why this law is called the law of orbits, right? So according to the law of orbits, all the planets move in an elliptical orbit such that the sun located at the one of its focus. Now, what is the Kepler's second law? So while the planet is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit, the distance covered by the planet in a different area is a different, right? So from this, the Kepler's second law, that is the law of area. So what is the Kepler's second law? Let us consider that the planet P is revolving in an elliptical orbit. Planet P is revolving. So here, as shown in the figure, consider a planet P is revolving in an elliptical orbit around the sun. Sun is situated at the one of its focus S, like this, right? At the some instant, the planet is at a point P1 at this point, right? The planet is at a point P1 at this point. After some time, in a time interval delta t, the planet is at a point T2, P2 point. So after this time interval, the area enclosed by the line joining the sun and planet covers the equal area in an equal time interval. This law is called the Kepler's second law for the planetary motion. So here, the line joining the sun and planet covers the equal area in an equal interval of the time. Let us consider in a time interval delta t, in a time interval delta t, right? The planet P1 moves from the P1 to P2. So the line joining the sun to planet covers this much area of a triangle S P1 P2. So area of in a time interval delta t, right? In a time interval delta t, the area covered by the planet is a area of triangle S P1 P2. After some times, the planet moves in the elliptical orbit, and in the same time interval, the planet moves from this P3 to P4 position. So in this same time interval, the area covered by the line joining a sun and planet is a area of triangle S P3 P4. So according to the Kepler's second law, the line joining a sun and planets covers the equal area in a equal time interval. So let us consider the time interval delta t here, right? Time interval delta t here. In a time interval delta t, the planet moves from P1 to P2. So in a time interval delta t, the area covered by the line joining of between a sun and planet is the area of triangle S P1 P2. After some times, the planet moves to the P3 to P4. So in the same time interval, right, the area covered by the planet line joining a sun and planet is a S P3 P4. This much area, right? And according to the Kepler's law, the planet covers the equal area in an equal interval of time. That is the Kepler's second law of the planetary motion, and this law is called the law of area. So dear student, understand The line joining a sun and planet covers the equal area in an equal interval of time. This statement is known as the Kepler's second law that we will discuss later on in this chapter, right? But here, when the sun is far, when the planet is far from the sun, it covers the area of a triangle SP1P2, SP1P2, right, in a time interval delta t. And when the planet is nearer to the sun, right, it covers the area of triangle SP3P4, like this. So area of triangle SP1P2 and area of triangle SP3P4 are same. So here, when the planet is far from the sun, it moves with the less speed, and when the planet is closer to the sun, it moves with the faster speed to cover the equal area. So as the planet is far from the sun, the speed of the planet is a less, right? But as the planet is nearer to the closer to the sun, its the speed is more to cover the equal area. So according to this, we can say that the aerial velocity of the planet is constant. So when the planet is far from the sun, it moves with the less speed, and when the planet is closer to the sun, it moves with the faster speed. Or we can say that the area covered by the planet, line joining a planet to the sun, is the same, or we can say that the aerial velocity is constant. So what do you mean by the aerial velocity? The aerial velocity is the area covered by the line joining a sun to the planet in a unit time, right? So aerial velocity remains constant. That means the aerial velocity is a delta A by delta T is equal to constant, right? So when the planet moves around the sun, the aerial velocity is constant, and when the planet moves around the sun, the torque is zero, because the line of action of the force passing from the origin sun. So the angular momentum of the planet remains constant, or aerial velocity of the planet remains constant. So understand, dear student. So second law states that when the planet moves around the sun, the angular momentum of the planet remains constant. The aerial velocity of the planet remains constant. The planet covers the equal area in an equal interval of time, right? When the planet is far from the sun, its speed is a less, and when the planet is closer to the sun, its speed is a more. For example, if you consider that a planet is revolving around the sun at the point A, right? At the point A, the velocity of the planet at a point A is a va, and velocity of the planet at a point B is a vb. Let us consider the mass of the planet be m. We get the angular momentum of the planet remains constant. Why the angular momentum of planet remains constant? Because when the planet moves around the sun, the torque acting on the planet and sun due to the sun is zero, because the line of action of the gravitational force between the sun and planet is passing from the sun, and due to this the torque acting on the system of the sun and planet is zero. And so that as the torque acting on the system of the planet and sun is zero, we can say that the angular momentum remains constant. So when the planet is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit, the angular momentum of the planet remains constant. So for that, if we considering the sun, planet is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit. At the point A, the velocity of the planet is va, and at the point B, the velocity of the planet is vb. Point A is very far from the sun, and point B is closer to the sun. So distance from the sun to the planet is a different. So let us consider that the distance when the planet is at a point A, the distance of the sun to the planet is a ra, and when the planet is at a point B, the distance of the sun to the planet is a rb. But the angular momentum at the point A and angular momentum at the point A are same. Angular momentum of the planet remains same. So we can say that the angular momentum at a point A is equal to angular momentum at a point B. So what is the formula of the angular momentum? The angular momentum is the product of the linear momentum and the perpendicular distance, or we can say that the angular momentum L is equal to mvr. So angular momentum at a point A is a mva and ra. Va is the velocity of the planet at a point A and ra is the distance of the planet from the sun. Similarly, angular momentum at a point B, mvb into rb. Vb is the velocity of the planet at a point B and rb is the velocity of the distance of the planet at a point B from the sun. So cut out, that is the mass of the planet. So we get the ratio of Va to Vb is equal to Rb to Ra. So we can also find the ratio of the velocity at the different point from this equation. That this question may be asked in your JEE and NEET examination. Find the ratio of the velocity, right, at a distance. When the planet is at a distance this much, velocity of the planet is this, the planet is at a distance this, velocity of the planet is this. So to calculate the velocity, this formula is also useful, right? Now dear student, consider that a planet is moving around a sun in an elliptical orbit with the velocity v. Let us consider that mass of the planet is m and the velocity at a point B is a v, right? So the velocity of the planet at is a v. It covers the v into delta t distance in a time interval delta t. So from that we can easily calculate the area. Area of the planet covered in a time interval delta t is a 1/2 into base v delta t into distance r. So the area covered by the planet in a time interval delta t is a 1/2 into base v delta t into height r, right? So we're taking the delta t in the other direction, right? So we get the delta a by delta t is equal to 1/2 into v into r. Multiply and divide by m, right? We get delta a by delta t is equal to 1 by twice m into mvr. Here mvr is the angular momentum of the planet. So we get the formula of the aerial velocity in terms of the angular momentum. Aerial velocity delta a by delta t is equal to L by twice m. Here m is the mass of the planet remains constant, and as the line of action of the gravitational force between the sun and planet is passing from the sun, the torque acting on the planet is zero. So we can say that the angular momentum of the planet is also constant, right? So here the aerial velocity from this formula delta a by delta t, L divided by twice m. Angular momentum of the planet remains constant, mass of the planet remains constant. So we can say that the aerial velocity of the planet remains constant. So this statement is called the Kepler's second law of the planetary motion, and Kepler's second law of the planetary motion is the physical interpretation of the law of conservation of the angular momentum, right? So understand dear student, Kepler's second law of the planetary motion. Next one is the Kepler's third law, that is called the law of the period, right? So as we know that a planet is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit, right? The periodic time, that is the time taken by the planet to complete the one revolution around the sun, is called the periodic time, right? What do you mean by the periodic time? You know that. What do you mean by the periodic time? The time taken by the planet to complete a one revolution around a sun is called the periodic time. So when the planet is revolving around the sun, the square of the periodic time of the planet, the square of the periodic time of the planet is directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. So you know that the major axis and the semi-major axis is the half of the major axis. So here we can say that the square of the periodic time capital T of the planet is directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis, right? So we can write T square is proportional to the A cube. So for all the planet, the square of the periodic time is directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. So we can say that the square of the periodic time T square divided by A cube is equal to constant. The ratio of the T square by A cube. A cube is the semi-major axis, right? Periodic time, what do you mean by the periodic time? Time taken by the planet to complete the one revolution is called the periodic time. And for all the planet, the ratio of T square by A cube are constant, right? So let us see the ratio of the T square by A cube for the different planet given in the textbook, but it is only for the information. So in the textbook, table number 1, data is given to you. Semi-major axis in a unit of the 10 raised to 10 meter. T is the periodic time of the revolution of the planet in a year. And Q is the quotient T square by A cube. So for the Mercury planet, the semi-major axis is a 5.79 into 10 raised to 10 meter. Periodic time is a 0.24 years, right? And if you find the ratio of T square by A cube, it is a 2.95. For the Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, all the planet is given to you. And last in the last column of the table, we can see that the ratio of the T square by A cube for all the planet remains approximately same, 2.95, 3, 2.96, 2.98, 2.99. So this statement is called the Newton's third law, Kepler's third law for the planetary motion. So what is the Kepler's third law for the planetary motion? The square of the periodic time of the planet is directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. So meanwhile, let us see the example number 8.1 that we have discussed in this video. Example number 8.1. Let the speed of the planet at the perihelion P in the figure number 8. Figure that is given in the previously, right? The planet is revolving around a elliptical orbit, right? The sun planet distance SPB RP related to RP VP to the corresponding quantity at the aphelion RA VA. So here at the point P, the velocity of the planet is Vp, and at a point distance from the sun to the planet is the rp, and at a point A the velocity of the planet is Va, and the distance from the planet to the sun, from the sun to the planet is Ra. Will the planet take a equal time in a transverse BAC and CAP? So what will be the time taken from B to C and A to C via A and via B? So here we know that the velocity of the planet is different at the different point, right? As the distance from the A, Vp by Va is equal to Ra by Rp. We know that the Ra is greater than Rp, Vp is greater than Va. So when the sun is nearer to closer to the sun, when the planet is closer to the sun, the speed is more, and when the planet is far from the sun, its speed is less. So it requires the different time to take a travel from the BAC and travel from CPB, right? So dear student, I hope that you understand all the three Kepler's law of the planetary motion. What is the first law of Kepler's first law of the planetary motion? All the planets are revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit such that the sun is located at one of its focus. Second, what is the Kepler's second law? When the planet is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit, the aerial velocity remains constant. The line joining the sun and planet covers the equal area in an equal interval of the time. That is, the aerial velocity remains constant, right? Second, according to the Kepler's second law, when the planet is revolving around the sun, the angular momentum remains constant. And what is the Kepler's third law? The Kepler's third law states that the square of the periodic time capital T of the planet is directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. T square proportional to a cube. Now dear student, when the planet is revolving around the sun in a different orbit, right? For the revolution of the planet, the centripetal acceleration is produced. So for that, consider a planet is revolving around the sun in a circular orbit of a radius r with the speed v. So for the revolution of the planet, the centripetal acceleration is towards the center of the circular motion towards the sun. So centripetal acceleration we can calculate AC is equal to v square by r. Now for the one revolution, if the planet is complete the one revolution, the distance traveled by the planet d is equal to the circumference of the circle. We can say that d is equal to 2 pi r. So the time taken to complete the one revolution is called the periodic time. So distance is a 2 pi r and time is a capital T, that is the periodic time. So for that, from that, the speed of the planet v is equal to distance traveled by the planet 2 pi r divided by periodic time capital 2. So put the value of the v, speed of the planet, in this equation of the centripetal acceleration. We get the centripetal acceleration AC is equal to 1 by r multiplied by v square, that is the 2 pi r by t square, that is the 4 pi square r square by t square. So we get AC, centripetal acceleration of the planet AC, is equal to 4 pi square r divided by t square. So from there we can say that the centripetal acceleration is depends on the radius of the circular path, and when the planet is revolving around the sun, right, the distance of the planet to the sun is a different, so it produces the different centripetal acceleration at the different point.